this episode,
we have a fact, a fab fact.
We are diving for lost treasure in the Randomiser.
and I sit down with my missus for a coffee and a chat
That's all coming up in Pod 93.
of the Gerry Anderson Podcast.
Let's get started. Let's go.
Spectrum is green.
The Gerry Anderson Podcast with Jamie Anderson and Richard James.
It's the Gerry Anderson Podcast, Pod 93, with me, Richard James, him, Jamie Anderson. We're here for the next hour and a bit with the Randomiser, with some Gerry Anderson news, with some FAB Facts. We've got some emails sent into podcast@gerryanderson.co.uk. We've got some tweets and some Facebook posts to read out. And I think, oh yes, an interview with my wife.
What an amazing summary. Thank you for doing that.
You're welcome.
You can probably hear again, listeners, I'm so sorry for the sound quality, but once again, I'm on the road, so I'm recording from a very echoey, on the run from the police. I'm in a very echoey chamber.
Yes.
This time coming to you from Budapest in Hungary.
I mean, you get about, don't you?
That's what they say about me, yes.
Now, if you can see the bridge over the river in Budapest, you might notice that it's based on, or rather the bridge in Marlow, very near me, is based on that same bridge.
Is it?
Yes.
It's very narrow, that bridge, isn't it?
It is, yeah. So do try and find it.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's
Okay,
of no
I'll
interest to
try.
anyone, least of all you, Jamie. I
No.
should point out, the interview this week is me talking to my wife. I feel I should just say she does have a Gerry Anderson connection other than being married to me.
Well, let's just leave listeners hanging.
Oh.
Don't tell them any more.
No, fair enough. Yeah.
Can you guess the Gerry Anderson connection, listeners?
No, just from that.
Yeah, other than the Richard thing.
Yeah.
Yes, so apologies for any background noise, etc. I can't wait to hear your chat with Charlotte.
Yes. Yeah,
She's
nice.
so lovely.
Of course she is. And a woman
What
of
does she do
impeccable
to-
taste.
Well, I was going to say, what does she do to deserve ending up with you? But yes, no, you're a lovely couple, so it's going to be really nice to hear the chemistry of the interview.
Right. Well, that's no pressure.
No.
I mean, after
Well, it's already
25 years, do we
recording
still
now.
have any chemistry left? I don't know. I think we might have used that up in the first 5.
You absolutely do.
Oh,
They're
come on.
adorable podsters, they really are. Anyway, before anyone gets any sick in their mouth from all this
Oh,
lovey-dovey nonsense,
charming.
should we have a fab fact?
Let's have a fab fact.
Cool, here we go.
Now, time for this week's Fab Facts.
So once again, despite travelling, I have got my book of Fab Facts right here.
Great.
I'm going to flick through it. Rich is going to shout fab at a random point.
True.
We've been in the 60s and 70s a lot recently, so if you could maybe change your strategy for fab
okay.
shouting, that would be great.
All right, fine. See what I can do.
Let's see what happens. And then I'll read the Fab Facts and we'll discuss it, and then we'll go away and do the next bit. So
Right, look forward to it.
here I am with the book. Are you ready?
I'm ready. Fab! How's that?
Oh, Richard.
What?
You and your fabs are so unreliable.
I thought I'd
Goodness
hold
me.
it a bit,
So, actually, this is related to a late 60s, early 70s point, but it's a more generic one. So, here's a fact for some of you who may enjoy another well-known cult British franchise.
Oh, right. Yeah?
Here we go. Over the years,
Yes?
several Gerry Anderson actors have tested for the role of James Bond.
Have they?
Yeah. The weird thing is, though, that all of those actors
Yeah.
were cast members from UFO.
Oh, really?
Would you believe it? Yeah.
Crikey.
So those actors that auditioned for James Bond included Paul Foster himself, Michael Billington,
Right.
unnamed skydiver captain David Warbeck,
Oh, yeah.
Michael Billington,
Yes.
Patrick Mower,
Mower, as some of us call him, yeah.
Michael Billington,
Eh?
Hans de Vries, Michael Billington,
What?
Michael Jaston,
Michael Jason?
and Michael Billington.
Right.
Michael Billington screen tested for the role of James Bond 5 times
Oh, no.
through the 1970s and early 80s, but he never got the part.
How frustrating.
The only thing he did play was Sergei Basov in the pre-title sequence of The Spy Who Loved Me.
Oh.
On the flip side, among the actors who were offered the role of Bond but never took it, just a single Anderson name.
Right.
Space 1999 guest star Richard Johnson, who was director Terence Young's preferred choice to play the part of Dr. No.
Richard Johnson.
There you go.
Okay, I must look into that.
Yeah, if you would like to know more about Anderson Bond connections, then AC wrote a rather lovely article on the Gerry Anderson website
Of course he did.
about Anderson actors in Bond films, so go and have a look at that.
Now, Jamie, you say that only one single Anderson name was offered the part of Bond but never took it. But, well, you know how Daniel Craig's stepping down after this one that's about to come out? Yeah, well, I got a call the other day, actually, from somebody, Broccoli, I think her name was, just asking if I was free for the next 5 years. Yeah. Apparently she needs someone to come in and water her plants while she's away. Yeah, so I said, well, I'd be very happy to do that because I've got nothing else to do at the moment. So
I was going to say, that's lucky,
I'm
isn't
very
it?
available. Isn't it? Yeah, very lucky. Yeah.
Finally got a job.
That's right. It's nice. I'm looking forward to it.
Congratulations. Well, on that broccoli-flavoured bombshell, that's the end of this week's
Bond Fact. There we go. Yeah, lots of crossover between the Gerry Anderson world and James Bond universe. We know that in terms of actors and directors. John Glenn, for example, was on Space Precinct with us, I remember. We've had him on the podcast previously for an interview or two. And lots of actors have been... Shane Rimmer, famously, in a couple of Bond movies as well. Now, people have been getting in touch with us at podcast@gerryanderson.co.uk.
No, really?
They have, honestly. Even
Amazing.
Andrew Potts, who we haven't heard from before, got in touch to say, Dear Jamie and Richard, I've been a Gerry Anderson fan since I watched Stingray on Tyne Tees television in the early 1980s, and I've been listening to the podcast since Pod 63. Well, that's not bad. Now, we were just talking about this. Andrew says, I didn't know that John Glenn, James Bond director, directed an episode of Space Precinct after I heard the interview and found it rather interesting. Well, that's true, Andrew. Many episodes, in fact. My favourite part, says Andrew, is the randomizer. I've also enjoyed watching the Terrorhawks marathon on the 10th of the 10th, 2019, which included the 3 Big Finish audio productions. After listening to the episodes, it got me thinking, do you think that you could use the entire audio series and turn them into actual TV episodes by recreating the puppets and model effects, but with a bit of CGI? If so, it would be good enough for a Kickstarter campaign. How much do you think it would cost to make? And do you think there would be any offers from TV channels and streaming services that might be interested in showing not the original series, but the Big Finish episodes with recreated scenes? Yours sincerely, Andrew Potts from County Durham. Rather long question. So, yes, if we took those Terrorhawks audio adventures that are available from Big Finish, could we turn them into TV episodes, Jamie?
It's certainly logistically doable,
Yeah.
but, expensive.
Yes.
I mean, teleproduction, you're probably looking at a minimum of £5,000 a minute, probably £10,000 a minute at a kind of reasonable rate. It's likely to be much more than that. So for a half-hour episode of Terrorhawks, £300,000.
Yeah.
And that rate will probably only work if you're doing, say, 10 of them minimum.
Yeah.
So if somebody's got particularly deep pockets and they want 10 new episodes of Terrorhawks and they've got £3 million on them,
yes,
please do send it
get in
over.
touch. Yeah. I'll have a look down the back of my sofa and see what I can find there. But Andrew,
see what's there.
I mean, I don't know why you're bothering with recreating old audio adventures of Terrorhawks, because as we know, rebooted Terrorhawks is on the way.
Yes,
As
absolutely.
revealed last year, a new series in the offing at some...
Yes, well, that might possibly be connected to the reason why I'm in Budapest, and might possibly be connected to the reason I'm going to be in Sweden in a couple of weeks' time. So there's all sorts of exciting things going on.
There we are. So watch this space, Andrew Potts.
Goodness me. I wish it didn't take so long, but exciting things are on the way.
There we are. Just as my wife says. Anyway, David Munns also got in touch to say, hello chaps, hope all is well. Thank you for your ongoing mission to provide at least an hour of nostalgia-fueled happiness every week. Oh, that's nice. I had a brief idea for merchandise for the Anderson store. How about wristwatches? I have been after a replacement for my own watch and wanted an Anderson-themed one, either Thunderbirds or Captain Scarlet, but couldn't find one anywhere. I don't know if this would be a viable option for the store. Maybe themed with the International Rescue Helping Hand logo or Spectrum emblem. Just a thought, and maybe yourselves or others could help expand on the idea now that we have laptop cases and duffel bags, etc. Thanks for taking the time to read. Regards, David. Well, David, thanks for taking the time to listen. What do you think, Jamie? Watches?
I'd love to. As with many of these things, it's quite difficult to produce physical, three-dimensional, individual items like that, because it requires tooling and product development and stuff that we just don't have the time or the budget for. Yeah. But it's certainly something I'd like to look into eventually.
Yes. Great.
And weirdly, talking about that, you've just reminded me, You know the little talked about failed Anderson series GFI?
I am familiar with it.
From the early 1990s. They did a lot of promotional stuff for that. They had metallic business cards, which were laser cut aluminium sheets. But they also produced a limited run of very detailed, chunky wristwatches, which were pretty cool, actually. And as far as I remember, the top of the watch kind of opened. You had to open it up to check the time, so not super convenient.
Right.
But they did look very cool.
Nice.
I wonder what happened to mine. Has anybody out there got a GFI promotional wristwatch?
Gosh.
I'd love to know and see a picture.
Well, chances are if they have got a GFI promotional wristwatch, they haven't even watched GFI.
No, they almost certainly won't have seen it.
That's weird, isn't it?
Almost nobody has seen it, and for good reason.
That's right.
But yeah, so with all these suggestions, we do log them, and if an opportunity arises to bring these things to fruition, then we do our best to do so. So thank you very much for your suggestion.
Yeah. Great. There we are. So do keep them coming in. Podcast at gerryanderson.co.uk. We do love to hear from our listeners. I'll be reading out some tweets and Facebook messages a little later on. In the meantime, of course, don't forget to subscribe to us on whichever channel you're listening to us on. Leave us a review. Leave us a rating. For heaven's sake, tell your friends so they get to hear us too. It's really very simple.
Yes, and you've been leaving your revatings in your ones.
Yeah.
So thank you for doing that.
That's all right. Yeah, every little helps.
It does indeed. Richard, I think it's time for a very short and possibly slightly sweet, hopefully not bitter, Gerry Anderson news.
Oh, go on then.
Here it is. How would you represent a very short Gerry Anderson news in the form of newsy news?
News.
That's pretty much what this week. And so again, I'm away, you're moving house, It's all a bit crazy, we're recording very far in advance. So I haven't really got much news for you, other than we had a lot of requests for baseball caps. So the full range of baseball caps from the Gerry Anderson universe is available now. £2 off every cap this week only for launch week, courtesy of Tim, the Gerry Anderson store. He sorted that out for you. shop.gerryanderson.co.uk.
Great.
I think we should be up to almost our last primer by now. So you should have seen the new Captain Scarlet primer.
Yeah.
And then Chris has done or is shortly doing an overall Gerry Anderson primer, giving you a bit of everything from across the Gerry Anderson universe. Nice. That's amazing. Maybe we should have started with that, but then of course he hadn't done all the research and writing for the previous one. So true. That means our primer series is concluded. So if you have any ideas for video series you would like to see, email us podcast@gerryanderson.co.uk and let us know your suggestions. Yeah, great. Now, I was at the Gerry Anderson store just this morning, Jamie, talking of caps. I looked at those rather snazzy Space Precinct hoodies and T-shirts with that rather lovely design. The shield shape with a couple of the space cruisers, the police cruisers, sort of flying out towards the viewer. Really very stylish, so I'm going to grab myself one of those, I think. Nice. Yeah. Courtesy of Chris Thompson, as always. Bless him. Of course, yeah. But some lovely stuff on the Gerry Anderson store, so do pop over and have a look there. Is there stuff still on eBay, Jamie, or is that long gone, do you think? It's gone, but there is now basically any returns will end up there pretty soon after they come back. So always check ebay.co.uk/USR/Anderson Entertainment, all one word. Yep. And have a look there. There should be some T-shirts and other bits and pieces for you to grab if you fancy an Anderson bargain. Yeah, great. So I don't have any other news because we're too far in advance. We go look at the website and all that sort of stuff. Anything you want to add, Richard, before we go? No, not really. Okay, well that's the end of this week's Gerry Anderson news. That was the news. Very brief news. Now, does that mean that next time we'll have a bit more of a fuller news item, do you think? I think we can expect juicy news for Pod 94. Look forward to it. Now, Jamie, over on our Facebook group, that's facebook.com/groups/podsterons, Fred McNamara has been celebrating the fact that his unofficial book, Spectrum is Indestructibles, print run has gained another extension, another 50 copies, so you can sign up for that. Hugh Morn has written, I've been squeezing as much of Pod 90 as I can until ITV4 begins its repeat of Goldfinger tonight due to mistimings, but there's something Chris mentioned that I want to touch on. So that's Chris Dale, I'm assuming. He says, correct me if I'm wrong, but did Johnny Byrne also write the 1984 Doctor Who serial Warriors of the Deep? As soon as that name cropped up, I knew it sounded familiar to me. Also, for Goldfinger's sake, there's a couple of Anderson connections I can make here. This goes back to our James Bond fab fact earlier. Stingray's Lois Maxwell appears in the film, of course, as Miss Moneypenny, and Sean Connery's likeness was the inspiration for various Supermarionation characters, such as Paul Travers and Captain Grey.
And Jonathan Letarget says, I recently got a 3D printer, and after some small attempts, I've decided to print a large replica of Thunderbird 3. I didn't design it, not that I can, but I found it on Thingiverse, and once I've printed all the parts, I'll glue them together, sand them, and paint them. Now, which set me thinking, Jamie, in the future, for productions and so on, we'll be able to 3D print props and models, won't we? Is that a thing already?
We already do.
Yeah.
We already do. Yeah. It's, sometimes in quite large scales as well.
Yes, I'm sure.
It's amazing what you can do.
Yeah, so Jonathan's posting his progress in the form of pictures of his various models that he's making, so do follow him on our Facebook group and see how he does. Now, Jamie, I did promise you this week something of a surprise, didn't I?
No, you didn't promise me. You threatened me with one.
Do you want it now?
Okay. Oh,
yes,
no.
it's the return of Quickfire 5. Just for 1 week, I'm going to read you, Jamie, 5 sections or quotes from 5 Gerry Anderson books. And you have to tell me which book is it from. Are you ready?
I have no hope whatsoever, but go for it.
Right. Number 1. My arse. My arse is on fire.
Is that it?
I've got you stumped already.
I've got no idea.
Well, it's from my book, Space Precinct Unmasked, detailing what happened to me on my first day's work at Parliament. The battery exploding.
The battery overheating.
Here's number 2. Gerry Anderson's youngest son, Jamie, is an avid Doctor Who fan.
That is in FAB Facts.
You're right, by Simon Archer, of course. Number 3. Ben watched from the door. His hair stood on end in the wind current.
Ben. What series has got a Ben? I can't
Yes.
think. Oh, I don't know. That David Bischoff's Space Precinct book.
No, it's from Gerry Anderson's Gemini Force 1 Black Horizon by M.G. Harris.
Of course, Ben Carrington. Oh, I was thinking too old,
Of course it
you
is.
see.
Right, you ready for this? Number 4. Jane lifted the shade. The space window beside her seat looked out onto a wash of dark sky.
Nice. That'll be Into Infinity Planetfall.
Right, yes, from Gregory Norris.
Yeah.
And finally, July the 17th, 1944. It was a few minutes before noon.
Is that Thunderbird at Bomber Command?
It's not. It's from A Constant Alien by Catherine Schell. And there we are. There's your Quick 5.
Wow.
Well done.
That was great, but
Yeah.
please don't do that again.
Okay. You had to reach deep there, didn't you?
I did. I'm too tired to think like things like that. But no,
sorry.
It was good. Very creative. Thank you.
Good. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Right. I think we need to flip the pressure away from me and back onto you now.
What? What have I done?
Well, I mean, you've spoken to your wife. That's what you've done.
That's true. That's where it all went wrong. Yeah.
So come on, give me 3 facts about the woman we're about to hear from.
She loves mushrooms. She's a big fan of
Interesting.
wildlife. Mm-hmm. And her favourite pop singer is Adam Ant.
Amazing. I mean, we don't need to know any more, so let's go straight into this week's interview with your wife, Charlotte Serpell.
My name is Charlotte Surple, and I was the first assistant editor on Space Precinct.
And how did you get to do what you do now, which I believe is slightly different?
What I do now is video editing for BBC News, which is actually not really very different at all.
And how did you get to do what you're doing now then? What was the journey to work at the BBC?
I did a degree in electronic engineering, and I worked as a broadcast engineer for a year during my degree course. And during that time, I learnt about edit suites and editing equipment and broadcast equipment in general. And when I graduated, I began working for GMTV. Mm-hmm. And
doing what at GMTV?
I was a beta cart operator and an editor. So I had 2 roles there.
And what's a beta cart operator? Is that like just somebody who pushes a trolley around?
No, not at all.
Not that sort of cart?
No, not that sort of cart at all. A beta cart, it was the most extraordinary piece of engineering. It was a stack of 4 VTs, okay, videotape machines. Now, bear in mind that each of these videotape machines at that time was worth £25,000. So a stack of 4 of those, and then next to the stack of 4 VTs is space for 100 videotapes. I think it was 100, maybe it was 50, but it was a lot anyway. And my role was to put a barcode on each of those videotapes in the morning and put them in their stack. And between the stack of VTs and the stack of videotapes, there's a little elevator that runs up and down, grabs the tape and shoves it in the side of the VT. And so this was all computer controlled. It was all very, very high tech back in 1992. And yes, those are all the tapes that are played in during the programmes. So all the stings, the news pieces, the competition VTs, everything. So it could get really quite busy. All the headlines as well. The headline sequence was always very complicated because sometimes you'd also have to play in another tape from somewhere else because 4 tapes just wasn't enough. So yes, it was a high pressure job.
And I'm picturing you sitting up in the gallery. That's my image of you at GMTV, where you were all familiar with the banks of monitors and the directors and so on, calling out the next shot and telling the cameras where to move to and all that. And I'm picturing you sitting up there in the dark, making all this stuff happen. Is that about right?
That's about right, yes. I was in the gallery, but I was in a soundproof booth within the gallery. So I could see, I had a glass window so I could see the director and the producer and see what was going on in the gallery. But I had to be soundproof because the noise of the elevator whizzing up and down, grabbing the tapes and shoving them into the VTs is actually quite loud.
That's an interesting idea because Jamie likes to keep me in a soundproof booth as well.
I don't blame you.
Yeah. But going back though, so did you always feel, when you were at school for example, did you have an ambition to work in the entertainment or broadcast industry at all, or was this something that came once you left school? No,
I always wanted to. I grew up watching Supersonic on a Saturday morning, which was, I think it may have only been shown in the London region. It was an LWT programme.
And what was Supersonic?
Supersonic was a music programme. And with live bands on, and it was directed by a chap called Mike Mansfield, and they used to show the gallery, and they'd show him in the gallery, and he'd say, cue music, cue balloons, cue the suite.
Okay.
And there they'd be, playing their music, and I wanted to sit next to him and press the buttons.
And that's effectively what you ended up doing then?
Sort
Not
of.
sitting next to him, of course.
I've never sat next to him.
Not yet,
no.
there's time. Is there?
I'm not sure.
No. We'll cross over that. Not sure if he's still alive or not. I think he is. But anyway, so, I mean, many people at school, moving on to sort of Gerry Anderson stuff, people growing up, it's their school days really where they were first exposed to that sort of thing and became interested in Gerry Anderson, sci-fi in general. So what were your first, not necessarily Gerry Anderson, but what were you into at school? So you had this vague idea that you might want to, work in the broadcast industry, but what were you really into? Was it, was it TV, was it film, was it music? I mean, what floated your boat back in the day?
It was TV, and I was, as far as Gerry Anderson was concerned, it was Joe 90 and it was Thunderbirds for me. Those were the 2 ones that I liked very much indeed. And as far as other TV was concerned, I liked live TV. I liked things like Swap Shop, Tiz Was, Blue Peter, that kind of thing. Live television was I found very exciting.
Very much thought to be the golden age of TV, really, wasn't it? 60s and 70s.
I mean, well, people say that, but I think there's still great TV. It's just because there's so much of it now that it seems that fewer people are watching it because there's such a great range now that there wasn't back then. Obviously the viewing figures were far higher then because there was so much less to watch.
And I suppose it was early days in the industry, and that's when the greatest innovation took place. And I suppose, Gerry Anderson stuff was at the forefront of all that in terms of the marionettes and the filmic quality to his programmes. What was it particularly about Thunderbirds or Joe 90 that you enjoyed? Can you remember any specific thing or character?
Well, obviously in Thunderbirds it was Virgil.
Obviously.
Yeah.
Had a thing for Virgil, didn't you?
Yes, he was my first puppet crush.
Right. Your first? You mean there have been others?
I'm not sure there have been others. So yes, I very much like Virgil Tracy. I liked Thunderbird 2. I was very much into Thunderbird 4 and The Mole.
Of course.
Loved The Mole.
Yeah.
And yes, so those were the things that excited me about Thunderbirds. And as far as Joe 90 is concerned, I'm not actually sure what I liked about it. I liked the idea. This little boy went into this pod and something happens.
Yeah.
And I loved it, and I loved the music. The music on both of them was,
So this, of course, would have been during the 70s, I'm guessing, when there were sort of reruns and repeats.
Yes.
So was it just sort of part of your weekend routine to tune into this sort of stuff?
Very much so, yes. Certainly, Joe 90 I remember on a Saturday morning. I don't remember when I used to watch Thunderbirds. It was probably a Saturday morning at some point, probably early 70s, I'm not sure. But whenever it was on, yes.
So flash forward a good few years, then you've left school, you find yourself with your degree and you're working at GMTV. What happened next?
Well, I was at a trade show at Olympia, I think it was. It was a big old trade showing off lots of the latest broadcast kit. And I bumped into a friend of mine who I'd been at university with, and I'd also worked with during my year working as a broadcast engineer. And he saw me and he said, "Oh, Charlotte, do you want a job?" And I already had a job, but I said, "Well, yeah, I'd consider another job, I suppose. What is it?" Mm-hmm. And he said, "Well, Gerry Anderson, he needs someone who knows about television and knows about computers." And I was that person. So it was just a very, very happy coincidence, really, because back then, television was just beginning to embrace non-linear editing, which is editing on a computer like we all do these days.
Right.
But previous to that, editing had always been done either on videotape or on film. So suddenly they needed people who knew about computers. Now, my degree, I learned a lot about computers. I don't pretend to know about computers these days because I find it rather baffling. But back then, I was someone who knew about computers, and I was also someone who knew about television. And Gerry had decided that he didn't want a traditional film assistant working on Space Precinct. He wanted someone who knew about television and computers. So I arranged to meet up with him and Tom Sachs, and I had a bit of an interview with them.
Tom Sachs being the line producer, so we're now talking about Space Police as it was.
Indeed, it was still the Space Police in those days. And yes, anyway, they offered me the job. And there was a little bit of a problem in that I had to give a month's notice at GMTV, and they needed me to start in a fortnight, which was a little tricky. What I did was I actually did both jobs for 2 weeks.
Right.
So I managed to swap a few shifts, so I didn't have to do every day shift. So I was doing the weekends at GMTV, and then I was doing the mornings at GMTV twice a week. So getting up at 3:30 in the morning, doing the transmission, and then driving out to Pinewood.
Wow, so moonlighting.
To do Space Police. And yes, because they just wouldn't let me go, even though they owed me leave.
Right.
Yeah.
But you don't bear a grudge, obviously.
I don't bear a grudge.
Not much.
They owed me leave.
Now, but this was your first foray into the world of drama then, wasn't it?
Yes.
Is that right? And was this a direction you particularly wanted to go in, or was this an unusual thing to put on your CV?
It was a very unusual thing to put on my CV, and I did it precisely. I did it because it was Gerry Anderson.
Right.
And he had been, a bit of a hero of mine in my youth, and I thought it would be wonderful to work for him. And it was.
And was there a sense, even in those early days, of the scale of what you were about to get involved in?
Oh, yes. Yes.
What did you know of Space Police then in those early days, or what did you come to learn about it?
Well, obviously, I knew that it was the most expensive television programme that had ever been produced.
Yeah, which is the common line that's trotted out with basically every Gerry Anderson show, I think. But certainly it was back in the day. Yeah, it's $1 million an episode, I think.
Indeed.
Which in those days was a lot of money, of course.
And I heard that the animatronics were going to be state of the art, the digital effects were going to be state of the art, and the model shots were going to be state of the art with the traditional Gerry Anderson, don't just blow it up once, blow it up several times.
Yeah.
Flourish.
And so what was your role to be then, and what was your duties, and did they change as the production went on for that? It was a year, wasn't it, at the time? Slightly over a year for you, I would think.
Yes, I started in April 94 and I probably finished in June 95, I think. So initially I organised designing the edit suites with a central control room, with a library in. We started off with 2 edit suites with this central control room, which had a stack of VTs in and lots of shelving for all the tapes. And we worked out how we were going to, get the rushes digitised into the machines. So that's what we did for the first couple of weeks. And then my role turned into the traditional sort of assistant editor role, whereby I was arriving early in the morning to look at the rushes and go through them and log them and then digitise them for the editors. And as the weeks went by and the number of episodes built up, we realised that we didn't really have enough editors or enough editing equipment. So we ended up getting a 3rd edit suite, which we put upstairs, so that we could have one episode being shot and assembled in one edit suite, another one in post-production in the 2nd edit suite, and then the 3rd one having all the sort of digital effects of the more post-production, basically, because the post-production process was taking more than a fortnight. So, so we moved around like that.
But going back to those early days then, so principal photography was yet to start. I mean, certainly from my point of view as an actor, it was an unusual situation for me. I played Officer Oren in the series, as I think you know.
I'm aware, yes.
Yeah. In that, generally as an actor, I come in and do my work, and then the rushes are taken somewhere else, usually in Soho, and it's all assembled there, and never the twain shall meet. But at Pinewood Studios, we took over Studios L&M, and the production team were all part of that location. So we had the 2 big stages, we had the production corridor, we had the wardrobe, we had makeup and dressing rooms and everything. So before the actors rocked up, were you aware of the building of the sets, of the models, of the effect shots coming in perhaps, of things like the theme tune being written, the masks being made, any of that going on while you were preparing that you remember?
Yeah, I don't remember greatly. I mean, there was a lot of stuff going on, and I spent very little time actually on the sound stages, even though I was, my office was right there. But obviously there was lots of carpentry and banging and sawing going on in there. The effects, the model effects were all shot at Shepperton. So although stuff was coming over, I think, was Steve shooting already? I'm not quite sure if he was. I don't think
This is Steve Begg, who was our effects supremo.
Yes, that's right. So I'm not sure that they were up and running yet. I think they were doing a few sort of motion control tests at the time. But, until principal photography started, I don't think we had anything coming in. Oh, of course, there was the opening titles. So there were shots that had been shot for the opening titles, I think.
I remember watching an episode in the very early days. We were sometimes allowed to creep upstairs into a darkened room and watch the almost complete episodes. And I remember watching maybe Double Duty, probably one of the first ones, or Protect and Survive, with a title sequence on it that, I don't know, was it some sort of holding title sequence? Because it certainly wasn't what we now know as the Space Precinct title sequence. Didn't have any clips from episodes, or it wasn't particularly exciting or visual. It was just, I think, the police crews are just flying around Demeter City. Do you remember that at all? I have a memory of watching that and thinking, well, that can't be it, surely.
I have no memory of that, I'm afraid.
Moving on. Now, so do you remember the first piece of, actual live footage that was presented before you, the first day's rushes, as it were? Or do you remember some early rushes coming through?
Yes.
And maybe what your initial thoughts were?
Yeah, so the Double Duty was the first episode that we shot. And I think the first day's rushes, I think Nicholas Grace was there on the first day. I think that's what they shot first. In the flat with him and Alicia. And
Lana Citron, I think.
That's right. And because, yes, I think they wanted to try out her transformation as soon as possible. So
Into the monster, yeah.
Yeah, so we had that shot where she stands up and does,
Yeah, she flips over and there's this great Neil Gorton creation morphs out of her body, yeah.
That's right. So I've got a feeling that might have been where we started.
And of course, throughout your time there, you worked with some amazing, veteran directors, the likes of Sidney Hayers and Peter Duffel and John Glenn, of course, who've done many a Bond movie. What was that like? I mean, did you know these guys before you met them? Had you heard of them? Did you know of their work?
I was aware of John Glenn. The others, I wasn't really aware of their work beforehand, but obviously I learned very soon who they were and what their background had been, and it was an enormous pleasure to work with them.
And of course, famously, we all know that it was something of a troubled production in many ways, not least financially. I think the money ran out, or looked like it was going to run out a few times at least during the year. Were you? I mean, certainly the cast, or I certainly wasn't. I wasn't aware. We were protected from all that. But were you aware of all these comings and goings and danger points during the production?
Yes, there was one point where things looked very dodgy indeed, but I couldn't believe that they were just going to throw the towel in, frankly, having gone so far. So I didn't really worry about it, I have to say, even though I had heard from my superior that things were looking a little dodgy.
And what were your gathering impressions of the series then as time went on?
There were bits of it which were fantastic, and I think that the main issue that we felt was that there seemed to be, because the episodes were all standalone, it meant that there was no story arc whatsoever. So nothing really moved along.
So effectively, at the end of each episode, you had to press a big old reset button so the characters could pick up from exactly the same point the next time without having progressed emotionally or as characters at all.
Exactly, and I think that became apparent probably about halfway through, that the series didn't seem to be going anywhere and couldn't go anywhere due to the way it's been thought out. But there were some absolutely remarkable episodes, some wonderful stuff. So the music was just brilliant.
From Crispin Merrill, of course.
Crispin was an absolute genius. He was so young at the time as well. Yeah, he was younger than me, and I was only 25, I think. So, he was an absolute genius and did remarkable work. And episodes like The Fire Within, parts 1 and 2, the music on that was incredible. And when we cut it, we used music from various extremely well-known films to
give a flavour.
To give him a flavour of what we wanted. And, yes, he did an incredible job.
Now, of course, these days in productions like this, security, studios almost go into lockdown, and scripts are watermarked with your name so they can protect against leaks and things like that. You're not allowed to tweet or talk to the press or anything like that. Were there any sort of security breaches during the making of Space Precinct that you can remember?
Yes, there was one. Yes, it was after we did. I mean, obviously there was no Twitter back in those days. And no leaking of videos onto the internet, because that wasn't a possibility back then. But yes, the day after Protect and Survive was finished. Now, Protect and Survive was actually the first episode that was finished completely. It got finished before Double Duty for, I can't remember what the reasons were with Double Duty, but I think we had reshoots and what have you. So yes, it was the first episode that we actually finished, and the day after it was finished, a friend of Gerry's found a VHS copy of it on Brixton Market. And of course, I had a whole stack of VTs in my little control room.
So this was some months before it was due to be broadcast?
Oh yes, a long time before it was broadcast.
It turned up on a market stall?
Yes, it had literally just been finished the day before. And I was prime suspect. And that was horrifying for me. Thankfully, the person who had created this pirate copy had put a trailer on it that had never passed through my hands. So straight away, Gerry knew that it wasn't me. If that person hadn't done that, I probably would have lost my job there and then. And we wouldn't be talking now.
Well, we wouldn't, because of course that's the other story, is that's where you and I met, of course, during the filming of Space Precinct. Here we are, how many years later? 25 years?
Not quite.
Not quite. Next year it will be, of course, 25th anniversary. Married, 2 children, living happily together. Well, most of the time. What's your abiding memory then? Looking back at that year and a bit at Pinewood, I mean, did it serve you well professionally in your career? Have you got great memories? Have you seen it since? Do you watch it? What are your thoughts?
It was a fantastic year. It was just one of the best years of my life. And it was extremely hard work. I was putting in as many hours as I possibly could, but just loving every minute of it. And as career-wise, it sent me off in a direction I didn't really want to go in. So I ended up, carrying on working on dramas. But after Space Precinct, none of them really floated my boat. I didn't really enjoy it at all. And that's why I ended up going back to live television, because I find it much more fun, even though I'm dealing with awful things a lot of the time. I find the work far more exciting and interesting. And so I haven't had that experience that I had on Space Precinct again.
Shall we go and get some lunch then?
I think it's time for lunch.
So what, did you have to take her out to dinner to make her do that for you?
Of course I did, yes. No, but that was nice, wasn't it? Catching up with the old times. We often talk about, the old days back at Pinewood.
Of course, understandably.
What I found really interesting, a couple of things there, Jamie, was, we've often spoken sometimes, haven't we? I'm going to be frank here, Jamie, that often your dad had something of a prickly relationship with other people in production or crew or even cast members. But here we had a lovely story, actually, of Charlotte saying, well, no, Gerry stood up for me, and that's how I kept my job. He actually took my side, which I think's quite nice, isn't it?
That is really nice.
Yeah.
But to even things out again, don't forget that when we had our Boris Johnson interview with Will Barton,
he
did have that standoff with
you've got
Dad.
a week.
So,
Gerry
swings
giveth
and
and Gerry taketh away.
Well, a lovely chat. Thank you so much for doing that. And thank you, Charlotte, for, giving up 24 minutes of her time just for us.
That's right. Now, I'm going to send you a sweet picture to you, Jamie, that you can put on the little thumbnail for our podcast for this edition of Charlotte and an Alien, and Mags Arnold as well, who is the other video editor as well on the show. Assistant.
Okay. I look forward to seeing that picture.
Great.
Thank you.
There you are.
Next week, Pod 94 onwards, we've got an interview with Maurice Bright, who's the boss at Elstree Studios.
Oh, right. Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he met Dad many times. Obviously, Elstree's got a nice bit of Anderson history, particularly around UFO.
Yeah.
So that should be very interesting.
Yes.
And I'm looking forward to having a chat with Maurice shortly about that.
Good. Nice.
So that's it for interviews, isn't it?
Yeah. For now, till we get some more under our belt.
Yeah. There's more coming.
Of course there is. Yeah, we've just got to sort out as and when, haven't we, really?
Yeah. Shall we hand over to someone who's a bit more reliable than you or I?
Well, that's just about anybody, isn't it, really?
Yeah, well...
Doesn't narrow it down much.
A particular named person.
Oh, yeah.
Who I think goes by the name of Christopher Darley.
Oh, you mean Chris Dale? Yeah.
Oh, I do. Yeah,
he does the Randomiser on the Gerry Anderson podcast.
Does he?
Yes. We can get him in now.
We should definitely hear from him. Yeah, let's do it. I can't wait.
Yeah, Chris, come in.
Well, we're coming up on 100 pods soon, Marina, and I think we've done pretty well, don't you? I mean, there's been some teething troubles along the way, sure, but...
All right, just a minute.
Oh.
Once again, I've listened to a cozy round of self-congratulations. Aren't we doing well?
Well, I rather thought we were. Didn't you think so, Marina? Yeah, we're quite happy with it.
Once again, I am shocked.
Any specific reason, Commissioner? Oh, what, you mean that it's taken us so long to get around to asking you to press the button on the randomizer? Well, I suppose we could let you do it today.
Yes, you must. You're going to do exactly as I tell you.
Ah, okay.
Well, what's to be done?
Oh, sorry. Well, it's pretty straightforward. Press the button. That's it. I mean, I'm always open to suggestions about the randomizer, Commissioner, good or bad.
We should maintain it. We should exploit it ruthlessly.
Well, I'm sure your selection will be the best choice that's ever been made.
The choice is obvious. It's my decision.
Yes, it is. And I'm sure you absolutely meant to select a supercar episode.
What?
Specifically, the Sunken Temple.
You shouldn't have left that choice to a machine.
Oh, you're never happy, are you?
Supercar!
So today's episode is, This is actually the very first episode of Supercar that I ever saw, The Sunken Temple. So I have a bit of nostalgia for this one, certainly. I got this on the Tape Trading Network back in, I guess 2002, 2003, which was copied for me by a very dear friend that I stupidly didn't do enough to keep. But yeah, he copied this and Trapped in the Depths, because I think they were on the same tape as a pair of Fireball episodes.
Mitch, come back with that.
So for a long time, all I had were these 2 episodes.
I wonder what Professor Tarman can possibly be discussing with Beaker in there.
That guy? He's a professor?
Of classical history, one of the best.
I thought we just let him into the building and let him wander around and do whatever the hell he wanted without actually asking what his business was, Professor.
Just signing up Supercar to help me locate the sunken temple of Poseidon, the sea god.
So we have this Professor Terman, who has, he's just told you what he's doing.
I've been in the Aegean skin diving around the shallows and come up with proof the sunken temple's not far off, but somewhere too deep for my outfit. How's that? No limit.
So this is another...
Can't carry enough air for a long search.
Very enthusiastic David Graham character. Looks a reasonably youngish puppet. A young man.
Mike Mercury would say, you're on.
Great. If I go on
And for some reason I really like this character because he's so excitable and he's absolutely hopeless at everything. As I remember, I haven't seen this for a while.
With Supercar.
Anyway, I think we're all off to investigate the sunken temple in this one.
You and I in the back seat, Jimmy, and you in the trunk, Mitch.
Well, you can stay at home if you want.
Actually, I promised Mitch that on this trip, Jimmy could go in the trunk and Mitch could ride up front. But otherwise, poor old Mitch, there's no room to move in there. There's no... I don't... You know what? I don't actually remember seeing Supercar's trunk open as such. I think they just say that it has a trunk and we never actually see that reflected on the model. I'm not sure I've ever seen any sort of like cross-sections or cutaways of Supercar to see that trunk.
Convinced, but Terman is a...
But it looks like they're just sitting on each other's laps. There's no room in there for 4 people. There's hardly any room for 2.
And here we are, right on schedule. I'd better give them some sort of landing signal. There we are, down below. I can see his light.
Ah, a little torch. That'll do it. Because the campfire that was already lit and is burning quite brightly, that wasn't going to be enough.
Sure am hungry, and I guess Mitch will be glad to get out too.
Assuming he's even still alive. Poor old Mitch. Oh, and again, a shot where they've lowered the full-size Supercar into shot with the 4 puppets in.
For the barbecue!
Stuff like that must have been very difficult to achieve. Oh. Now it's... Aww. Harmonica around the campfire and Mitch is dancing like a loon. Oh. Getting a good display of Mitch crotch there. Well, as you can probably tell, this one is this is a slow building plot, I think. We're getting a full Mitch dance sequence. Which is fairly well animated by the puppeteers.
Gee, Professor Terman, that...
You suck.
You aren't like a real professor at all.
Well...
What are you implying, Jimmy? You little twat.
Oh, I see Dr. Beaker is examining the jars I found already. Dr. Beaker?
My dear fellow, oh, these are interesting. Oh, really, most interesting. You found them in shallow water, you say?
That's right.
We're getting a display of Beaker crotch there. He was just sat on a... I guess it looks like a tree stump, but the way it's shot, he's kind of...
Water clear.
Kind of looked like he might have been going to the lavatory.
Anyway, at that depth, I couldn't do much on my air supply. Certainly not like bringing up the heavy stuff by myself.
Well, now you can use your outfit in collaboration with Supercar. That is, if Mitch leaves it alone.
Oh no. Oh, that's it. Broken pot.
I think he's hurt something.
Yeah, he also just smashed a priceless artifact.
Who the devil are you?
By your favor, good sirs, I am Antonio the Gypsy, and I am truly tired and cold. Could it be that good sirs could spare a warming drink? The night...
Well, Jimmy seems to have his foot in the campfire, so you're welcome to take a piece of that.
Okay, you're welcome to a mug of coffee.
Yeah, we'll take on anybody who just happens to wander along, I guess. But this guy doesn't look at all sinister. Ooh. Ooh. Oh no, he got into a staring contest with Mitch there, and Mitch panicked and ran off. That's not like him.
Can you tell fortunes?
Of all who have the art, Antonio is the best.
Unfortunately, you have no future, so we'll move on to the next person. Ooh. Made the campfire explode again.
Antonio reads the flames.
And those are quite high flames.
You have come here to disturb
the puppet looks very close to them.
And gods.
I suppose you're right, Antonio. We're looking for the sunken temple of Poseidon, the sea god.
You will not find it. Antonio sees.
So this is, I think, a forerunner of an episode that we've already covered on the Randomiser, which was Stingrays in Search of the Taj Mahal, where we have a lost sunken temple, and there's a native chappie telling us, don't do it, blah.
And handing it out.
Oh, steady, Mike.
And also, I suppose, Desperate Intruder as well in Thunderbirds was a similar story.
Wandering gypsy.
I'd have to believe, though, that this was the very first one, though.
But I must go now. I will disturb you no more tonight.
You sure you wouldn't like some more coffee?
Antonio thanks you, sir.
Oh, obvious villain, adversary person, you sure we can't... Oh, he's got some of his strings tangled there.
You beat that. Most peculiar.
Is that halfway through the episode already? Oh, okay. Well, we're halfway through, and we're only just now going into the water.
Go on ahead. I'll slither down that underwater cliff in my own time. With this telephone contraption, we can have heap big underwater powwow.
I think this guy is on something. He's brilliant. He doesn't stop laughing.
Starboard.
I get that.
Somebody help me on with this goldfish bowl, huh?
I think they're trying to sort of make him not seem like a sort of old, stuffy professor.
Thanks, I'll walk. Plenty of healthy exercise, that's me.
Okay.
Trying to make him seem a bit younger and a bit hipper. But,
Doc. Fire 2.
Oh, there was moisture droplets on one of Beaker's wires there.
Seems okay. See you down there, Professor Terman.
See you down there.
And I think with this episode we are also reusing a lot of the...
To the warnings of Antonio.
If not the sets, then certainly the equipment and costumes from...
I am no more but as Spiros the bandit. I have little patience with
bandit. Yeah, I think the diving suit that Professor Terman is wearing there was Bill Gibson's back in Deep 7. So I would imagine we're probably going to see some similar underwater scenes here.
Depth 80 feet.
And as always, we forgot to close the canopy, Mike. We're actually drowning now, Mike.
If you feel like a swim, you could always take Terman's place.
Yeah, thank you. No, I prefer my comforts.
That's it. Terman's making his way down the underwater cliff. And of course, we've got a fish tank in front of the set here. With rather a lot of fish in the shots of Terman, actually. He is basically almost obscured. Shots of Supercar look a bit better, but I think it's the fact that the fish are there, but they're not in focus, which doesn't really make sense because in theory they should be they're nearer to the viewer than Terman or Supercar behind them should be, and yet they look very blurry. Anyway, we found the remains of our sunken temple. That didn't take long.
Can you see him, Doc?
Not yet, but if he followed our wake...
It's lovely music. Anyway, they've met up with Professor Terman, who, somehow has managed to beat them to it. Even though he was walking/swimming there. Oh, and I love that they can connect the diving suit to Supercar via an ordinary headphone jack.
50 yards over to the right.
That's great!
Now hold on. We'll give you a tow.
Yeah, another shot of the fish tank in front of the model set. This kind of looks like it was shot on video. I'm sure it wasn't, but just the way it... The way that the fish are so blurry in the foreground, it...
What is that thing, Doc?
I imagine it is the god Poseidon himself. Ask Professor Terman. I found something.
You're telling us it's just about falling on our head.
Why, I don't mean the statue. There's a square object here that looks almost like a strong box. I don't think they used to have strong boxes in the 2nd century BC.
What imagine not knowing that, Mike. He's such a fool.
I've a pretty shrewd notion who have already warned us of their property.
My dear.
Mr. Gypsy or Mr. Bandit or whatever.
Professor Terman thinks he's found a strong box, right?
I'm sure of it.
Well, how long would you say it's been there?
Oh, not long. It's not encrusted at all.
Then I'll bet our friend Antonio...
Oh, did you leave it down there?
That's why he didn't want us to dive today. I don't know what's in it, but I'll bet Antonio knows that, too.
Ooh.
Correct, my friend. So you have taken the too curious step. And it is one too far.
Then we'll dive again this afternoon.
And we'll take down the acetylene torch.
Sure we will.
Yeah, we'll do all sorts of things. I just love doing things.
We shall see, my friends. We shall see. Ah, I must say, Professor Terman, you are a wonderful cook.
More eating.
Get out of that diving suit for a few minutes. We'll have to make our second dive soon.
And then we'll have our third meal, then our third dive.
Be silent. Here.
Oh, so Spiros is trying to lure Mitch away. Yep, and succeeded. It didn't take long for Mitch to, it doesn't take much to lure Mitch away, just, I think, one peanut there.
Afternoon you dive. Well, it may be more dangerous than you think.
Spiros has just let the air out of the diving suit, or something.
What's up with Mitch?
Maybe he's in a hurry for us to get started again, eh, Mitch?
Oh, no, he's trying to warn them.
I don't know.
He's trying to warn them about the suit.
Tell us something.
Because, you know, he's not above taking bribes to look the other way, but he's also not going to not report the sabotage.
The cutter ready? Yes, you can get cracking with this.
Because he's basically loyal to no one, is Mitch, except anyone who will feed him.
The cutter will last as long as you do.
Okay. I'll switch onto the second bottle now. First one's all but empty.
Uh-oh.
Mike,
What's the matter?
there's nothing in the second bottle.
What? Then you gotta surface fast. Switch back to the first bottle and blow out the suit, and you'll go up like a cork.
And prepare another meal once you get up there. We're hungry. Oh. The Terman's just floated back to the surface. Well, that was,
I knew Mitch was trying to tell us something about the diving suit. Weren't you, Mitch?
What? Oh, yeah, sure. Mitch was staring into a teacup at the time. Oh.
Well, I'm not sure it wouldn't be easy.
He's still doing it.
Let's dive whatever is in that strong box.
It's too dangerous.
Oh. So Spiros the Bandit was overhearing them, but where he was, it was daytime, and here it's night again.
At dawn tomorrow, Doc and I will take Supercar up and find Antonio. And we'll keep an eye on him till Professor Terman finds what's in that strongbox.
I still think it would be quicker to go down by myself.
Mitch agrees with him. Mitch is very invested in this plan now. So, yeah, that was, I guess, the third meal was consumed there.
Gone down again.
Oh, no.
Terman's gone down to the sunken temple on his own.
What does that note say?
It says he's sorry to sneak off like this, but he thinks there's a sporting chance of one man getting down and back without being spotted. Sporting chance.
Well, what can we do, Mike?
Take Supercar down to look for him, I guess. We don't even know how long he's been gone.
So now here we are back in the sunken temple, having another go at that strong box, which of course is right next to this statue of Poseidon, which is leaning at a fairly awkward angle, as they commented previously.
Too long. I'll bring him up if I have to pull him to the surface by the seat of his pants.
I'll make him cook me breakfast if it's the last thing I do.
One thing's for certain, Terman's in trouble.
Oh dear.
Meddled in my affairs long
Spiros has rigged up a sort of tree branch boomerang thing to lob sticks of dynamite into the lake.
Discourage them.
And of course he's getting these sticks out of a big crate marked dynamite. Ooh. Stock footage of explosions. And there goes the statue, very slowly falling on Terman. Very slowly, nearly there, hold on, and down. Whew. Accompanied by more non-Barry Gray library music there, which I was always...
I'll take Supercar down to Professor Terman.
I always liked it. It turned up in other shows as well. It was in like The Saint and Danger Man around the same time.
Dr. Beaker and I...
I'd like to hear some of that in isolation.
You're better at that sort of action than I am, Mike.
I know there's another another Supercar soundtrack CD coming out soon, but I don't think any of that music is on there, which is a shame.
And you and Mitch stay here, Jimmy. I may need your help.
But probably not. Yay, Professor Popkiss gets to fly Supercar.
So, now they take their machine out again, do they? Very good. Now I shall settle them once and for all. Fire 3.
Oh, wait, who am I giving orders to?
Yeah, I think.
I guess we ought to get out the first aid box.
Oh, you want to be useful? Oh, why start now?
He must be somewhere near the bay for the explosion to come from over there.
Then I suggest we try that way.
Oh, so Mike and Beaker are going after Spiros the Bandit. Mike's got his gun out.
These must be the entrance pillars to the temple itself.
Which I always found rather odd. And yet it's an interesting element of Mike's character. You know, this is usually such a happy, jolly show where nobody ever dies, and yet Mike sometimes was seen with a gun. Oh, another stick of dynamite's gone down. And Popkiss has run over the professor.
Come
Oh no, he has to plug that headphone jack in again.
Are you all right, Cameron?
Just about, Professor. I think my leg's broken. I can't move.
You are trapped by the statue. I'll have to move back a few feet and have a look.
Do you want to unplug the headphone jack first? No? Okay.
Can you still hear me, Professor Cameron?
Sure. Just, it hurts a bit, that's all.
I'm going to try and blow some of the mud away from the other end of the statue with the exhaust. And free you.
Okay, I'll yell if it gets too bad.
Right.
I may not be able to hear you, but yeah, sure, you do whatever.
Anything happened yet, Professor Cameron?
Can't tell. I don't think so.
I'm not sure I have any legs left, though. That's, oh, no, there goes the other one. Oh. And again, more really nice, non-grey music. I love this library stuff.
I think that's done the trick.
And it fits the show really well. It doesn't sound like...
With my other leg.
Like it's been composed by someone else. It really does fit in quite nicely.
Oh, you do the service.
Thanks. Guess I'll need some first aid.
Yes, well, we have a monkey for that. Unfortunately, Mitch has
Nothing we can do about it.
been allowed by a certain snotty little oik to
Give the good
basically tip out the first aid kit and play with it.
Do you think? Just to make sure.
Jimmy. Oh. Oh, Spiros is armed as well. Mike and Beaker have found him. Oh, and we have a good old-fashioned hiding behind rocks shootout now. Did Mike get him? Oh, he certainly got the dynamite. Ah. Oh. Now the puppet's all singed and cross-eyed.
Do you feel all right now, Professor Turner?
Oh God, they've really put Mitch in charge of bandaging the professor's leg.
Off on my own again in future. Sorry about that. Yes, you'd have had more sense, wouldn't you?
Oh no! Oh, ow, ow, ow! Oh, Mitch was bandaging the professor's leg. He started, waving his hand around, but his hand is still attached to the bandage, so he's pounding the professor's broken leg against the ground. Oh. Good job the professor's so high he didn't register that.
Got away with it if you fools had not interfered.
No. The correct phrase is, I would have got away with it if it weren't for their meddling kids.
Simons.
A nice little haul, eh?
And their mangy monkey.
As soon as I'm fit again, we'll go down.
But I really think...
Well, looks like I've got one volunteer at least.
Well, Mitch has helped himself into the diving suit, which is suddenly simian-sized. It's a curious running theme in sort of first season Supercar episodes. It almost each episode ends like an episode of Mr. Ben. Which costume is Mitch going to be wearing this week? Anyway, that was the Sunken Temple. They've found some treasure. They will probably go back for another look after they've had yet another breakfast. And that, as I said at the beginning, I have strong nostalgic affection for that one. Again, it's an ambitious showcase for the underwater scenes in a similar way as Deep 7 was. I also really like the professor character, who could very easily, I think, have been Bill Gibson, but it's nice that David Graham got to play an even sillier and, I said, slightly stoned professor with that one. So, yeah, maybe not one of the best, but I still really like it.
Supercar.
Supercar.
I can't. Sorry. People looking at me again. Yeah, a bit weird. Okay, sorry. Anyway, lovely supercar.
Yeah.
And isn't Chris good at his supercar character impressions? I think they're fantastic.
Yeah, a talent that he's kept well hidden, isn't it?
Yeah, well, except when he's watching Supercar and he does the voices.
Yeah.
But yeah, rather good. And who doesn't love a classic Anderson hiding behind rocks and shooting at each other scene?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. We need more of them.
Well, now listeners, this is where you can help us. Dear Podstrons, can you give us your top 5 Gerry Anderson shooting from hiding places behind rocks scenes in Anderson shows?
This carries on from top 5 naked puppets from last time.
Yeah, and I believe there's one in Space Samurai and Terrorhawks, for example, which is pretty good.
Yeah. I reckon there's bound to be one in Space Precinct.
There must be.
Yeah.
Probably on 2 Against the Rock.
Yeah.
I mean, that would still count if it was on the rock. As a rock.
Yeah, go and get that.
So yes, do send us your suggestions to podcast@gerryanderson.co.uk, and possibly next week or the week after we'll do a top 5 Gerry Anderson hiding behind rocks shootout scenes.
Right. Well, that'll be worth tuning in for, won't it?
Well, that's the sort of stuff that we're capable of here on the Gerry Anderson podcast. Okay, I think we've reached the end. I mean, of our tethers.
I think you're probably right, Jamie. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
End of our sanity. Anything else you'd like to add before we leave our lovely Podstrons for another week?
We'll see you next week.
Okay, please leave us a review, a rating, a comment. Share us with your friends so they can have a listen and hear all this nonsense. Apologies again for the sound quality. It should be back to normal next week in Pod 94.
Wow.
But until then, thank you for having us in your ears and your lives. We'll be back very soon. Goodbye.
Bye.
Stage 1 complete.
Let's go.
Spectrum is green.
So, Jamie, now listen. You've really gone and done it now, haven't you? Why do you mention Gerry Anderson jokes?
Oh, I don't know. I didn't mean to. I thought you were going to say there were more haikus.
No. Simon Allen, of course, has been in touch again with some more gags.
Him again?
Yeah, I know.
I thought we had that court order against him.
Right, so I'm going to read these out and you will laugh and you will enjoy them. Ready?
Okay.
Right.
I'm ready.
What's the most watched TV channel in shadow? Sky
I
One.
don't know. Oh.
What is the Balor actor's pastime? Peter Bowles. Which Space 1999 story tells of a visit to Hertfordshire? Journey to where? Who facilitates the noise that Jamie makes after my jokes? The groan arranger. What do you call a female chic diplomat? UFO. What did Richard sing about the fireman twins in Trumpton? These are the pews, these are the pews. Did Gabrielle Drake take to her role like a duck to water? What Space 1999 episode is about the carriers of Miss Wentham, the bringers of wonder? Why was Orange seeing stars? Because he was Hubble. Who goes bleep, 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 bleep? Robert Vaughan having a meeting with the producer.
You have been listening to the Gerry Anderson Podcast. Wasn't it fun?